Hey guys, it's me, Katrina. I wanted to do a quick video today. I was on Facebook and I found something that was kind of interesting that Bryan Tew had wrote that my friends over at Spellbinder and Occult Symbolism have reposted. He basically goes over everything that is happening with me that I've explained since in my first video in 2016 when I was stranded up in Maine. But I'm going to read this to you. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so he said how the CIA DoD operatives hypnotize mind control victims in their sleep to commit crimes or horrific acts without their knowledge. The only possible way of determining whether or not a subject will commit a murder or some other horrific act while under hypnosis is literally to have him or her commit one. And of course, the sleep hypnotism doesn't work on everyone, and there's only 1 in 5 chance that sleep hypnotism will be successful with most mind control victims. This 1 in 5 individual can be hypnotized against his or her will, with women representing the higher success rates than men, as they tend to disassociate easier given right brain and left differences in women and in men. The standard way to produce hypnotism with the so-called sleep technique is where the operator talks sleep to the subject, who eventually relaxes after being targeted with delta and theta waves and goes into a trance, talking in his sleep and answering questions. Then, with implants inside the body, which is like a body area network, measure blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen levels, etc. And the CIA DoD operatives are able to measure his or her ability to relax. They walk the mind control victim into the very highest state of relaxation with chatterbox programming, psychic driving, known as neurolinguistic programming techniques. Hence, they are able to walk the victim into a deep sleep while talking to him. CIA DoD operatives then proceed to talk sleep the victim with post-hypnotic suggestions, much the same as an ordinary hypnosis, carefully avoiding any reference to a trance or making any test with which the victim might be familiar, all the while checking on blood pressure, etc., to maintain the altered state. Then they make the victim of this word is crazy, somnambulism or deep hypnotism to determine if the victim will talk back to them in his or her sleep without awakening. If this does not succeed, the mind control victim wakes up completely, in which case they simply repeat the experiment, increasing the frequency and amplitude of the stream of energy as needed. If they succeed, the victim belongs to the 1 in 5 club, and the victim is just as truly hypnotized as any other method, such as by desynchronizing the 2 hemispheres of the brain by targeting the corpus callosum region of the brain with fabricated and falsified streams of electromagnetic energy. From that point on, everything gets easy. By use of the post-hypnotic suggestion utilizing chatterbox thought and memory interface programming, they walk the victim through his or her instructions, such as saying, "After you wake up, I will tap 3 times on the table with my pencil. You will then have an irresistible impulse to take off your shirt." Now, what is kind of interesting, I'm going to pause right here as far as reading this, is the fact that take off your shirt is in the AI system, like if you go on Cleverbot or some kind of AI chat, if you type in who is Katrina Maria, it'll say, "Come on, darling, take off your shirt." And I tested it right now. It doesn't happen anymore, but it happened a couple of months ago, and it was documented. And I had a friend who was all the way across the country, and he works in IT, and he also went in several different AI chats and asked, "Who is Katrina Maria?" And it said, "Come on, darling, take off your shirt." So it's kind of interesting how I am, you know, basically one of these people, one of the 1 in 5s, I guess. And 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 it says, "Take off your shirt." So, all right. The next trance is just that easy to get, and the subject has no idea that it is the pencil which has just pitched him or her into action or an access sequence. Once the person has become accustomed to hypnotism, has been repeatedly hypnotized, it becomes very easy for any operator to throw him or her into a hypnotic trance. The hypnotism is based on cognitive warfare. So the CIA, DoD operatives plug this gap again by hypnotic suggestion in a somnambulistic state, which means the victim will have no idea he or she was just hypnotized by triggers, so to speak. So they then walk up the next day and sit down next to the mind control victim at work, school, church, etc., and start talking about times on the table. Oh, I'm sorry. Start talking about, say, the latest boxing match. When the operator handler taps 3 times on the table with his pencil, instantly, and I mean instantly, the mind control victim's eyes close and he or she falls into a sound sleep and is pitched into whatever action or access sequence the handler wishes, such as go here and do this. Oh, such as go here and do this, or say that, including taking off one shirt. Once again, taking off one shirt. I have a very unusual relationship with Bryan Tew, and I blocked him from commenting on my stuff, and it's kind of funny that he keeps using the term "take off one shirt." Instead of just, generically undress. Yes. Um, yeah. So while in trance, the victim, say, sees a black dog come into the room, feels the dog, goes to the telephone, and tells its owner to come and get it. The dog, of course, purely imaginary, and the victim has no idea she has just taken off her clothes. While in the trance, the CIA DoD operatives give her electroshocks with directed energy attacks that would be torture to a normal person, but she does not even notice it. They then straighten her out between 2 chairs and sit on her naked chest while she recites poetry. Then they wake up, and she immediately starts talking about the boxing match. A visitor to the library walks up to the table and interrupts her and tells her to please put her shirt back on, and she has no idea what happened or why she is half naked. Now, this next part is exactly the ring of degenerates that I've been sold into, the one that Dr. John Hall talks about with his ex-girlfriend. And Dr. John Hall, I believe he's based out of Texas, and I believe it's San Antonio. And San Antonio is a hub for the people that had put me into this a very long time ago. So here we go. An example of this would be the girlfriend of Dr. John Hall, who was repeatedly raped every night, confirmed by a hospital emergency room, by people who were breaking into her home who were actually government perps. Each time they would lock the door behind them after they had rearranged her furniture to add to the psychological trauma. No one could figure out how they were getting in and out, as she bought the latest alarm system and deadbolted her doors, windows, etc., turning her home into a fortress. So Dr. John Hall secretly placed cameras into the apartment of his fiancée to try and determine how the perps were getting in and raping her brutally every single night. And it is every night. Once you're put on this list with these trash scumbag, they don't skip a night. Even if you travel, you'll have all the drones above wherever you travel to. I moved 19 hours across the country, and they had an operative, a Cuban operative, moved into the house down the street. All the drones were set up. Everything was set up. To his horror, he discovered that she was being hypnotized in her sleep to get up, unlock the door for the perps to come in and brutally rape her each and every night. Dr. John Hall's fiancée was raped so brutally over and over again each night that she suffered vaginal scarring for life. Okay, so I have basically been utilized by this crew of scum for quite a long time. I mean, a very, very long time. As far as I know, it goes back a lot of years. And they are also big on scarring the inside of a woman's vagina with burns. From what I learned from a different doctor, human traffickers burn the inside of a woman so she can take gang rapes easier. And basically, this is what these guys do. It's a form of prostitution also. It's a way of isolating and humiliating a woman within the neighborhood that she lives in. More than likely, they move in operatives into homes around her. It's basically part of some kind of a sick cult of people. And it's not just men coming in and doing this, it's men and women who also participate in this. They're a very sick group of people. They live stream all the attacks. They videotape all the attacks. And a lot of times I know with me, they stream them in foreign countries and not in, locally, but it's a lot of foreign places they get streamed at. The woman will generally have no idea until they go overt and start to injure her. I had been utilized by these people for, like I said, many years, had no idea that I no memory of anything until 5 years ago when they went completely overt, when I had gone no contact with certain people. They had sent in one of their main coordinators of this as a honeypot, and I had a relationship with him for a year and wasn't aware that it was just a recognizance. Basically, he was just gathering information, and they gather information on you for an entire year before they go overt. And a lot of it is basically tracking your neurals and upsetting you on purpose, tracking your neurals, making you happy, tracking those neurals. And so that's what they had done with me. I had bought a house in that time. I had worked on YouTube, and my entire house before I even bought it was completely rigged up with cameras and all kinds of things. It was pretty bad. And how I figured out that I somehow answered the door was after I sold my house, and everything in my house was completely hacked. So I figured I would go to a hotel and use their Wi-Fi, use their telephone, so I could make airline, flight, because all I wanted to do was leave Chicago. And so I figured I'd make my plans in a hotel. I didn't think that they could hack the hotel. I was very naive back then. I didn't understand the full technology spectrum or even interest, and all I wanted to do was leave. So I was at a hotel on a relatively high floor, and they had all of a sudden, I had been there like 4 or 5 days, and the night before I was attacked really bad, I noticed a maintenance man about 10 or 11 o'clock at night messing with all of the lights up and down the hallway. And as I'm sorry, I get kind of upset when I think about this because it's really messed up. Um, and my spidey sense went off, and I was really kind of nervous about like what the hell he was doing out there, because he was kind of a sinister, he was real creepy kind of person. So the next night, I believe it was a Friday night, I went to bed. I had all of the doors, all the locks on the door, even the one that kind of like goes over that you can't open from the outside. I had everything locked up. Figured I was safe. I went to bed maybe about 1 o'clock in the morning. I woke up about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, bleeding out of every hole, sick. Someone was in my room, or had been in my room. Food was missing. My dogs were traumatized. I had been obviously sexually assaulted uh, in all the worst ways possible. I got up, first thing I did was vomit. And all I wanted to do was I was just in shock. There was a do not disturb sign on my door, and I didn't do this. And there was lotion all over my bathroom floor. All I wanted to do was just get on a plane and get the hell away from everybody. And I was, very, very sick and in a lot of pain. I had already been denied a rape kit when I owned my house, and woke up, and my hair had obviously been pulled out, and there were earplugs in my bed. And I felt like someone had done something. I went to Palos Community Hospital, um, under the directions of a non-compromised police officer, who told me that if anything happened, to go right to the hospital. So I did. And I had a compromised doctor who treated me like a third-rate citizen and said she would give me an STD test and a drug test. But she refused me a rape kit. And so I had already been kind of traumatized with hospitals anyway, and honestly just wanted to leave. So I stayed in my room until about checkout, and then when I was downstairs waiting for my cab to come to take me to the airport, because I just was going to get on a plane, I had $10,000 in my pocket and just wanted to leave. There was a young man who had to have been no more than 23, 24 years old. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Promise you'll take me back to my room and I'll be okay." And like was mocking me. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know? And kind of looked at him, and there was a girl with him, a young girl, once again, shocked by how young they were. And she was like, "No, no, 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 like don't do that." And the little girl, not the little girl, she's probably 19 years old, 20 years old maybe. She I was just for some reason her face stuck with me, and I didn't know why. These people all were from Indiana, and it was a roving group. There seemed to be older handlers that were in their 50s, and younger people in their early 20s. And they had followed me as a group to two different hotels on the south side of Chicago. And this was the second hotel that they had followed me to as a group. And I remember who they were, but they all had Indiana license plates. So interestingly enough, the young girl whose face I remember, I want to say about a year and a half later, there was an incident in unincorporated Palos Hills or Heights, Illinois, which means it's governed by Cook County sheriffs who ran my trafficking where I lived in unincorporated Worth, Illinois. Um, her and two other girls and then two guys. Apparently, they were from a prostitution ring out of, I think it was somewhere in Indiana. And they went to this guy's house, and apparently the guy ordered a threesome. And I don't know what the story was, but it was, they made it seem like that they were going to rob him after they had sex with him. But as far as I know, they're just kind of like a creepy gang of people that just travel in packs. So the girls are probably going to turn a trick. And somehow, like, one of the boys got murdered or someone got shot. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was in the news and covered for quite a while. But the girl, the young girl, was one of them. So they were from a prostitution ring in Indiana, where all those people were from. And this is part of the crew of people that I've been targeted by. Now, I am not the only woman who's been targeted for destruction by these people. There's another woman, she goes by the name Anne Marie and Sarah, and she also, same story, same everything, but they have basically driven her absolutely insane. And she wouldn't listen to me when I told her, like what to do and keep your cool and that. And she was a mom, and they turned took her daughters away. But same story, same people. She was out of Indiana too. She's a normal mom, but it's the same crew, and her and I are roughly the same age, and so yeah, but it's it's pretty crazy how all of this, works. But exactly what John Hall is talking about is exactly what I've talked about. If you watch my very first video, I go over everything. I've done my best to expose this. There have been times that, I mean, they basically use this technology for sex trafficking, and I was being used in S&M videos and waking up half dead every single day. Now here they're starting it up again, where they are, I have documented on my YouTube channel how they've cut 2 to 3 hours off of my camera every night. They're putting pesticides through my vent system. They're dosing me with candida and other things, trying to cause mental illness, but I clear it up with turpentine and, my health regimes and that. Severe directed energy attacks. I have been given concussions by these people, woken up with bruises on the back of my neck, taser marks all over my body, uh, bruises on my neck as though I had been choked. My dogs have also been utilized by these people for gross purposes. And my one dog had fluid in his lungs on a couple of occasions, and what seemed to, he couldn't eat because they had done something to his throat. He had perfect teeth when all of this began. Now his bite is all messed up from these people coming in and abusing my dog. But I've extensively covered how they've taken over my life and basically have slow killed me and trafficked me for years, for 5 years specifically, to the point that it's pretty crazy. But I am fully aware of who they are and what industries are out of. They've sent in pimps in the past, I don't know, year or so. They've been doing it since 2012, but I've had more like just overt guerrilla pimp types that have come in. Um, and they're, it, it has to do with the Mormon church. It has to do with the oil and like the oil industry, and it has to do with supremacists. And interestingly enough, I have black and white supremacists in this, and they work together when it comes to having to assault a woman. There's no color when it comes to assaulting women. They absolutely, it's just male supremacy at that point against any kind of female. So like it's really amazing how it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they hate women, it seems. Um, yeah, but as I've done a ton of research, and I've had kidnapping threats. I've had these are recent. I've had just really scary people kind of come in and make threats. They still want a baby from me. It has to do with baby trafficking. It's, you know, and I'm 43. I think we're getting a little old for this, but yeah. So, but this was kind of an interesting. It was kind of nice to see this written, you know, publicly exactly how it's done, and it's done with RHIC-EDOM. It's radio hypnotic intercerebral electronic dissolution of memory. It's a technology. There's a stimma receiver. Basically, what they're doing is they're putting them in to babies that are bloodline babies and people, you know, like myself with psychic abilities at birth. They know who we are. Apparently my mother also had this same thing done. My mother had her life ruined and was trapped by the same people. As I've seen what's happened to me, my mom did heroin, she did drugs, she did things like that. I've never been into drugs. I don't do drugs. I rarely, if ever, drink alcohol. I don't smoke. I mean, I don't really, I live a very clean lifestyle. So when I see what they have painted me to look like, and the weird people that were always around my mom that didn't make sense, and anytime my mom would go into rehab, she'd have these friends that I never heard of all of a sudden pick her up out of rehab. Like, who the hell are these people? And there was, it just always seemed to be the same people that I'm around that stalk and follow me and do all this sick shit to me. It seems to be the same people. So, but these people have been in the shadows of my life since I was little. I had kidnapping attempts when I was little. A couple times we had to call the cops. Um, Same demographic of people. Yeah, it was really weird. And I believe also the person who put me, who said he was going to ruin my life and have a Machiavellian plan to destroy my life 5 years ago because I wouldn't be with him, you know, and marry him and have a child with him and all kinds of other things, and he could live with me. Um, I just, I knew it was not going to be a good thing. Um, it, yeah. So apparently he said he was going to destroy my life and he was a dangerous man. I didn't understand what that meant. Um, and he did have a Machiavellian plan. He did have everybody in place. Um, Everybody that I knew and loved basically participated in this. And they all were strategically placed in police departments and you know, bar associations and, you know, like government. And yeah, so yeah, it was great. So overnight, um, I became a non-person, and that was when the torture started, the physical torture. So, yeah, but these people are very sick. They seem to be into methamphetamine. It has to do with methamphetamine trafficking, I believe. And, those people, they get on that drug, it does something to their brain, and they become like sexually deviant. There seems to be a Nazi component to this where, I mean, and they even talk about how Hitler gave his troops, crystal meth. And so like it's kind of like, there's nothing new under the sun, but like literally like it's with the sun worship and that. um so yeah, it's this is happening, and I've been going through this for 5 years, and they're very evil, brutal people. And that's why a lot of really pretty girls have been targeted, and even attractive men have been targeted, because I mean, let's keep it real, these dudes swing all kinds of ways in this cult. And yeah, so, but I want to thank Bryan Tew for putting this out. I know that we don't always see eye to eye on our religious views and that, but this information is definitely well appreciated, and thank you for putting it out. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.